Carl Jung never intended to create a hierarchy of personality types, but his research revealed an uncomfortable truth. The four introverted intuitive types possess a form of psychological power that makes them fundamentally different from everyone else. And understanding this difference explains why these types often feel like aliens in a world that doesn't understand their unique mental abilities. Before we dive into this profound psychological discovery that could finally help you understand why you think and perceive reality so differently from most people around you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, because what you're about to learn will validate experiences you've had your entire life but never fully understood. Jung's discovery of psychological types wasn't just an academic exercise. He was trying to understand why certain individuals seem to possess almost supernatural abilities to see patterns, predict outcomes, understand complex systems, and perceive hidden meanings that others completely missed. What he found was that these abilities weren't random gifts, but the natural result of a specific cognitive configuration that only occurs in about 15% of the population. The four introverted intuitive types, INTJ, INFJ, INTP, and INFP, all share something that Jung called dominant introverted intuition or auxiliary introverted intuition. This cognitive function is like having a direct line to the unconscious mind, allowing these types to access information and insights that remain hidden to other psychological types. But this gift comes with a price that Jung understood better than anyone. Jung himself was likely an INFJ, and he wrote extensively about the burden of being what he called a natural psychologist. He understood from personal experience what it meant to see patterns that others couldn't see, to understand motivations that people hid even from themselves, and to perceive the deeper currents of human behavior that most people remain completely unconscious of. The first unique mental power that Jung identified in these types is what he called pattern recognition at the unconscious level. While other types might notice patterns in concrete data or immediate sensory information, the introverted intuitive types can perceive patterns in abstract concepts, human behavior, and complex systems that span years or even decades. An INTJ might look at a business strategy and immediately see how it will fail 3 years down the line, not because they've run detailed calculations, but because they can perceive the underlying structural weaknesses that others miss. An INFJ might meet someone and instantly understand their core psychological dynamics, seeing through their persona to their deeper motivations and likely behavioral patterns. This isn't psychic ability, it's the natural result of a mind that's constantly processing information at an unconscious level and delivering insights to consciousness in the form of sudden knowing or intuitive flashes. Jung called this the transcendent function in action, and he recognized that these types have natural access to this function in ways that other types typically don't. The second mental power Jung identified is what he called systems thinking. The introverted intuitive types don't just see individual pieces of information, they automatically perceive how everything connects to everything else. They see the web of relationships, the hidden connections, the underlying structures that govern complex phenomena. An INTP might look at a scientific problem and immediately see connections between seemingly unrelated fields, leading to breakthrough insights that more conventional thinkers would never discover. An INFP might understand how personal psychological patterns connect to broader social and cultural dynamics, seeing the individual as part of a larger tapestry of meaning. This systems thinking ability allows these types to understand complexity in ways that linear sequential thinkers simply cannot. They don't need to build understanding step by step. They can grasp entire systems holistically and then work backwards to understand the component parts. The third mental power is what Jung called temporal intuition, the ability to perceive time in non-linear ways. While most people experience time as a straight line from past to present to future, the introverted intuitive types can perceive multiple timelines simultaneously, seeing how past patterns influence present circumstances and how current trends will unfold into future realities. This temporal intuition explains why these types often seem prophetic or ahead of their time. They're not predicting the future in a mystical sense. They're perceiving the natural unfolding of patterns that already exist but haven't yet manifested in obvious ways. An INTJ might see how current technological trends will reshape society decades before it becomes apparent to others. An INFJ might understand how personal relationship patterns will play out long before the people involved recognize what's happening. The fourth mental power Jung identified is depth perception in human psychology. The introverted, intuitive types can see beneath surface behaviors to understand the deeper psychological forces that drive human action. They naturally perceive what Jung called the shadow, the persona, and the unconscious motivations that most people remain unaware of. This psychological depth perception can be both a gift and a burden. These types often understand people better than people understand themselves, which can create a sense of isolation and frustration. They might see someone's self-destructive patterns clearly, but be unable to help because the person isn't ready to face these truths about themselves. Jung understood that this depth perception comes from these types' natural relationship with their own unconscious. Because they're comfortable with ambiguity, paradox, and the unknown aspects of their own psyche, they can perceive these same qualities in others without being threatened or overwhelmed. The fifth mental power is what Jung called conceptual creativity. The introverted intuitive types don't just recombine existing ideas. They can generate entirely new conceptual frameworks, seeing possibilities that don't yet exist, and creating mental models that others can then use to understand reality in new ways. This conceptual creativity is different from artistic creativity, though it can certainly include that. It's the ability to think thoughts that have never been thought before, to see connections that have never been made, to imagine possibilities that others can't even conceive of. Jung himself demonstrated this power through his creation of entirely new psychological concepts like the collective unconscious, archetypes, and psychological types. These weren't just variations on existing ideas. They were completely new ways of understanding human psychology that opened up entirely new fields of inquiry. The sixth mental power Jung identified is paradox integration. Most people's minds are designed to resolve contradictions, to choose one side or the other when faced with opposing ideas. But the introverted intuitive types can hold paradox without needing to resolve it, allowing them to perceive truths that exist in the tension between opposites. This ability to hold paradox allows these types to understand complex realities that simpler thinking cannot grasp. They can see how something can be both true and false simultaneously, how opposing forces can both be necessary, how contradictory ideas can both contain essential truths. Jung called this the transcendent function, the ability to hold thesis and antithesis in creative tension until a new synthesis emerges. This is perhaps the most powerful mental ability these types possess, because it allows them to transcend the either-or thinking that limits most people's understanding. The seventh mental power is what Jung called archetypal perception. The introverted intuitive types can perceive the archetypal patterns that underlie human experience, seeing the universal themes and mythic structures that play out in individual lives and collective events. This archetypal perception allows these types to understand the deeper meaning and significance of events that others might see as random or meaningless. They can see how individual stories connect to universal human themes, how personal struggles reflect archetypal journeys, how current events echo ancient patterns. An INFP might see how someone's personal journey reflects the archetypal pattern of the hero's journey or the wounded healer, An INTJ might perceive how organizational dynamics reflect archetypal power structures that have played out throughout human history. The eighth mental power Jung identified in these types is what he called essence perception. While most people focus on surface appearances, behaviors, and immediate circumstances, the introverted intuitive types naturally perceive the essential nature of people, situations, and ideas. This essence perception allows them to see through masks, pretenses, and superficial presentations to understand what something really is at its core. They're not easily fooled by appearances because they're naturally attuned to deeper realities. An INFJ might meet someone who presents themselves as confident and successful, but immediately perceive their underlying insecurity and fear. An INTP might look at a popular theory and instantly recognize its fundamental flaws, even if they can't immediately articulate why. This essence perception is what makes these types such powerful judges of character and such effective analysts of complex situations. They can cut through surface complexity to identify the core issues that really matter. The ninth mental power is symbolic thinking. The introverted intuitive types naturally think in symbols, metaphors, and analogies rather than just literal, concrete terms. This symbolic thinking allows them to perceive connections and meanings that literal thinkers miss. Jung understood that symbols carry multiple layers of meaning simultaneously and can convey truths that literal language cannot express. The introverted intuitive types are natural symbol makers and symbol interpreters, able to create and understand meaning at levels that go far beyond surface communication. This symbolic thinking ability allows these types to communicate complex ideas through metaphors, to understand literature and art at deeper levels, and to perceive the symbolic significance of events and experiences that others might dismiss as meaningless. The 10th mental power Jung identified is unconscious processing. While all types have unconscious minds, the introverted intuitive types have unusually strong connections to their unconscious processes. They can set their unconscious mind to work on problems and trust that insights will emerge when they're ready. This unconscious processing power allows these types to solve complex problems without conscious effort, to have breakthrough insights during relaxed states, and to access wisdom that goes beyond their conscious knowledge and experience. Jung himself relied heavily on this unconscious processing ability, often allowing his unconscious mind to work on psychological problems while he engaged in other activities. He trusted that his unconscious would deliver insights when they were ready, and this trust was rarely misplaced. The 11th mental power is what Jung called future orientation. While most people are primarily focused on present circumstances or past experiences, the introverted intuitive types are naturally oriented toward future possibilities and potential developments. This future orientation isn't just about planning or goal setting, it's about perceiving the inherent potential in current situations and understanding how things might unfold over time. These types can see possibilities that don't yet exist and work toward futures that others can't even imagine. This future orientation often makes these types seem ahead of their time or out of step with current reality. They're often working toward visions that won't be understood or appreciated until years or decades later. The 12th mental power Jung identified is meaning-making. The introverted intuitive types have an almost compulsive need to find meaning and significance in their experiences. They can't simply accept things at face value. They need to understand the deeper purpose and significance of events. This meaning-making ability allows these types to find purpose and direction, even in difficult circumstances, to learn and grow from experiences that might crush other types, and to create coherent narratives that give their lives direction and significance. Jung understood that this meaning-making drive is both a gift and a burden. These types can find profound meaning in experiences that others might dismiss as random or meaningless, but they also suffer when they can't find meaning in their circumstances. But Jung also identified the shadow side of these mental powers. The introverted intuitive types often struggle with what he called inferior sensing. While they excel at perceiving abstract patterns and future possibilities, they often struggle with immediate practical realities, physical needs, and present moment awareness. This can lead to problems with health, finances, relationships, and practical life management. These types might have profound insights about the meaning of life, but struggle to remember to eat regularly or pay their bills on time. Jung also noted that these types often struggle with what he called the burden of knowing. When you can see patterns that others miss, understand motivations that people hide from themselves, and perceive problems that won't become obvious for years, it can be incredibly isolating and frustrating. These types often feel like they're living in a different reality from most people around them. They might try to share their insights only to be dismissed as overthinking, being too sensitive, or being unrealistic. This can lead to a sense of alienation and a feeling that they don't belong in the world. Jung understood this burden personally and wrote extensively about the loneliness of the intuitive type. He recognized that these types often feel like they're speaking a different language from most people, and that their natural gifts can sometimes feel more like curses. But Jung also believed that these types have a crucial role to play in human development and evolution. They are the visionaries, the innovators, the meaning makers who help humanity understand itself and evolve toward greater consciousness and complexity. The introverted intuitive types are often the ones who create new paradigms, who challenge existing assumptions, who see possibilities that others miss. They are the philosophers, the artists, the scientists, and the spiritual teachers who help expand human understanding and consciousness. Jung believed that these types have a responsibility to develop and share their gifts, despite the challenges and isolation this might bring. He saw them as bridges between the conscious and unconscious, between the known and unknown, between what is and what could be. For those who recognize themselves in this description, Jung's message is both validating and challenging. Your different way of perceiving and thinking isn't a flaw or a problem to be fixed. It's a unique form of mental power that the world desperately needs. But with this power comes responsibility. Jung believed that these types have an obligation to develop their gifts consciously and use them in service of something greater than themselves. This might mean becoming a teacher, a writer, an innovator, or simply someone who helps others understand themselves and their world more deeply. Jung also emphasized the importance of these types learning to ground their insights in practical reality. While their natural gifts lie in the realm of abstract perception and future possibilities, they need to develop their practical skills and present moment awareness to be truly effective in the world. The key is integration, learning to honor and develop your natural gifts while also developing the practical skills and present moment awareness that will allow you to manifest your insights in concrete ways. If you recognize yourself as one of these four types, Jung's research suggests that you possess mental powers that most people simply don't have access to. But these powers come with both gifts and challenges, and your task is to learn how to develop and use them wisely. The world needs your unique perspective, your ability to see patterns and possibilities that others miss, your capacity to find meaning and create new understanding. But it also needs you to learn how to communicate your insights effectively and ground them in practical reality. Jung's legacy reminds us that psychological diversity isn't just interesting, it's essential for human development and evolution. The introverted intuitive types represent a crucial form of human consciousness that helps our species understand itself and evolve toward greater complexity and awareness. If this video has helped you understand your unique mental gifts and challenges, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Share in the comments which of these mental powers resonates most with your experience. And remember that your different way of thinking isn't a problem to be solved. It's a gift to be developed and shared with the world.